కుడి ఎడమైతే పొరపాటు లేదోయ్ ఓడిపో.
నమస్కారం, పరదేశీ పెద్దమ్మ కథలకు స్వాగతం. ఈ రోజు నేను మెల్ని రివ్యూ చేయబోతున్న సినిమా దేవదాసు. 1953లో వచ్చిన ఈ సినిమా డైరెక్టర్ వేదాంతం రాఘవయ్య గారి డైరెక్షన్ లో వచ్చిన ఒక అద్భుతమైన క్లాసిక్. ఇంతకుముందు నేను మెల్ని అక్కినేని నాగేశ్వరరావుకి సంబంధించి దసరా బుల్లోడు లాంటి రొమాంటిక్ కామెడీ మూవీస్ చూసాం. ఇప్పుడు దేవదాస్ లాంటి ఒక ప్యాథో ఫిలిం కూడా మేము రివ్యూ చేయబోతున్నాం. సో మెల్నీ రివ్యూ ఏంటి, దేవదాస్ సినిమా తనకి ఎలా అనిపించింది అనేది తనని అడిగి తెలుసుకున్నాం. హాయ్ మెల్నీ.
Hi, good to see you, Harsha.
Before we watch Dasara Bullodu, it's a romantic comedy, right? So what about your experience about Devadasu? What's your experience about that?
So, it was my suggestion to watch this, even though subtitles do not exist at all for this 1953 version. And it's because it's held up as one of the best versions of the retelling of Sarat Chatterjee's novel. And I knew the story from watching the Hindi 2002 Shah Rukh Khan film. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, okay, well, I basically know the story and I know the talents of Savitri and A&R. And I felt like even if I don't have the dialogues, I'm going to be able to tell what they're feeling, which I definitely could. It still was a challenge because it's a 3-hour film with no subtitles. So there were certain scenes in particular, like the scene right before Pero gets married. And I was really surprised at the moment when A&R strikes her, on her face and she starts bleeding, because I didn't know exactly what she was saying that spurred that, action. So I was like, I was really surprised. That was the scene I most wished that I had subtitles. But so much of the film, the emotions, what is happening in the story, you don't necessarily need to have the words to get the story. And I actually, though, was curious about certain scenes because there's 20 adaptations of this novel on film, which is amazing. Yeah. I think this is one of the most filmed novels in India. And each film, of course, takes, a slightly different aspect of the story. And I think this film may actually be closest to the original text. I was kind of curious. And I actually read the novel last night just to kind of brush up. And so, for instance, the 2002 Hindi version, and then I read the 1955 Hindi version, completely skipped the childhood part of the novel. Yeah. Whereas this 1953 film starts with their antics and showing how close they were as children. And then the reveal, one of my favorite scenes is when A&R comes back from school and comes back home and he's searching out Paru, and the moment he sees her as a grown-up, just like the amazement on his face, and then when she looks up and sees him, it's such an amazing scene. And again, you don't need words to see what's happening in that moment. And so anyway, that was interesting to me because they'd spent, I don't know, at least 20 minutes or almost half an hour of the film on the childhood portion. And there was other things in the script that were much closer to the text of the novel. For instance, of course, the 2002 Hindi version has this famous dance between Chandramukhi and Parvathi, which does not exist.
That's completely Shah Rukh Khan thing.
Right. But that's just a Sanjay Lee Bhansali. We have to have these two actresses dance together. Yeah. And I will admit, Lalita, who plays Chandramukhi, she gets the only dance numbers in this film. Yeah. And I do admit I was a little sad that I didn't get one single time that Savitri danced because she's so amazing. But again, it's closer to the original text of the novel that they never meet. And so anyway, I just thought, so going back, this is director Vedantam Raghavaiah, and it was, the music is by C.R. Subaraman, and the second half of the film especially has so many tragic songs. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like I didn't need to know exactly the words, like Savitri just, lamenting and crying and singing, like, oh my gosh, your heart is just
That
breaking
is
for her.
completely emotion starts from love, and they completely converted into a philosophical tone about life. Wow, what is
Yeah.
this is the meaning of this is the real meaning of life, like that. Anta Brantiyena. Those songs
Yeah.
particularly about philosophical tone of life.
Yeah. And so, I mean, when she's just saying, oh, Devadas, like, I mean, again, I mean, I could tell when she's just, her heart is breaking. And also, some of A&R's tragic songs in the second half of the film. So, like I said, I didn't necessarily need the words, but so there's amazing actors in this film. So this was a breakthrough, even though A&R was 30 when this film was made, and it was still a breakthrough for him, and he became known as a tragedy king, and in some ways typecast from this role. And of course, he's playing opposite Savitri, one of my personal favorites of the classical actresses. And then I think Lalita was
I
new
know
to
that
me.
all your favorite actors again in this film, Nageswara,
Well, that was
Savitri, S.V. Rangarao especially.
right. And so SVR is playing A&R's father, even though their real age is only 5 years apart. But with makeup and whatever, SVR is playing his father. And then I think Lalita was new to me. I'm not sure that I've seen her in another film. And she was amazing. She was really amazing. Not just, I mean, her dance numbers were so expressive, but then in the later parts of the film, when she gives up her life as a courtesan and yeah, I mean, her love
when we
for
discuss
Devadas,
we discuss about the story narration script and compared to the newer ones, the older versions, I think in the mode of build up and payoff, because they completely started with childhood life, so the emotional gradually build up how they connected with each other, like that.
right. Yes, I totally agree with that. I mean, maybe it is for some of the later versions that they know most of the audience kind of knows the story, and so they can skip over some parts. But I agree with you. I appreciated the build up of in the background of certain things, and then it has a big payoff in emotions in the second half of the film. So going back to the child actors, I thought were absolutely amazing that they chose. The little girl that played Parvathi, especially, she just had this mischief about her. She was amazing. And then I think, it's like when they finally meet as adults, like Savitri, again, there's things that she does, like being so captivated at the sound of his voice calling for her outside the house that she spills flour all over her grandma's head. Like, again, I didn't need words, I didn't need subtitles to know how she was feeling in that moment. So one thing that they did add in this film that's not in the text of the novel, and is not something that maybe I'm remembering wrong, but I don't remember it in the 2002 Hindi version, is that Devadas gives her a necklace when he comes back from school. And of course, that carries a lot of meaning, a man putting on a necklace to a woman. And she never takes that off through the whole movie till the very end when he's dying. And then symbolically, the necklace falls off and is crushed under the feet of her husband. So I just love the symbolism of that. I mean, there's many other scenes of her new husband putting on all the jewelry and whatever, but she never takes it off. So I think that being shot in black and white, this director used the fact that Devadas is constantly smoking. So there's smoke-filled rooms, and then there's light filtering in through windows, and it's just so gorgeous. It's just so dramatic and gorgeous. But I did read that in the latter half of the film, when he's, becoming more and more of a drunk and sinking into his alcoholism, the makeup was amazing, but also evidently the director only filmed him at night. So he would look kind of drunken and droopy, and it would just emphasize the gauntness and how he had changed his appearance even more. But it's also just, it's not just the makeup and whatever, it's how A&R changed when he was acting from that mischievous and whatever, student at the beginning of the film to just this world weary, depressed, like just the physical transformation of the way that he carried his body and the way that he acted was really amazing. I'm in awe of this film, like everyone would said, and that's why I wanted to watch it, because it's supposed to be such an amazing performance. And in fact, the Hindi actor Dilip Kumar, who also did Devadas 2 years later in 1955, he said that he's I want to get the quote exactly. There is only one Devadas, and that is Akkineni Nageswara. I mean, like the man who also played it acknowledged that there really is only one, and I would say he's right, because I mean I'm a huge fan of Shah Rukh Khan, and Shah Rukh Khan, for him that was a very good role, but there's no comparison to me. Like A&R rules, he is Devadas for me.
When comparing with A&R himself, he played a happy-go-lucky kind of roles.
Yes.
We observed previous Dasara Bullodu,
Right.
but in Devadas completely contrast in
completely contrast. And I have seen Savitri play this kind of tragedy kind of role, and also this is a good role for her because she also has that kind of mischievous at the beginning of the film, so she has that personality and spark to her, so she is the perfect person to play the range of what Pero goes through, what Parvathi goes through in the film, going from being so full of life to then being crushed by her circumstances and suffocated and as a wife and having to take care of all these children. I mean, to me, it was interesting in the novel itself. She's only 13 when she's forced to marry this 40-year-old, guy. And
that is the social issue at that time. Most of things like happening.
But then it meant that one of her sons, one of her new sons was like 20 or whatever. He was much older than her, calling her mother. So, but again, she went here, they have all the children, I think most of them being younger than her. I take that back. There was one that's older than her that they show at the dinner table. So this film was also done in Tamil at the same time. They didn't release them at the same time. They released them 3 months apart. I think some of the supporting characters changed, but the three main lead actors were all the same for both versions. Again, I'm amazed at how these actors from the South are so multilingual, and they can do these movies in multiple languages. But anyway, this was a blockbuster film, deservedly so. And I'm so glad that I watched it. I will say one thing, that because it came out in 1953, that means that next year will be the 70th anniversary of this film. I happened to watch the film, the movie studio that A&R created himself, has a YouTube channel where I think they somewhat restored this film. So it seemed to be, because I was looking at different places trying to find the cleanest version, and they seem to have partially restored the print, and it was kind of the sharpest to watch. But I think this deserves for the whole world to be able to watch it. And so I think a way to honor A&R for the 70th anniversary, his grandsons, maybe should pony up the money and get subtitles done for this film so everyone can truly enjoy it. Because I know there's some really famous dialogues of his, like I'm going to butcher it, but it's something like, I drink to forget, but that whole dialogue. And I was trying to guess which moment that was of when I could tell he was saying some really impactful dialogues, but over my head, I didn't know exactly what he was saying.
Previously, you mentioned how did South Indian languages completely multilingual. Like that is the only thing. When actor and actors stick on to the subject, then language is not a barrier, because the emotion is same throughout the world, right? So that's the reason without subtitles you can understand the film Devadasu.
Yeah, I know, especially a film like this where it's just so filled with emotion, and he just I just look at the transformation that he goes through in this film and utter amazement. I'm just because, like you say, he's so happy-go-lucky at the beginning, and he has this bickering relationship with Parvati, and then how, just how dark he turns, the depression, how well he portrays depression, how well he portrays someone who's just descending into alcohol. Just like, not everybody can do a drug scene even as well as he did in this. And his interactions with Chandramukhi, because he's supposed to be captivating, but also so harsh to her, and dismissive of her. But yet you could see why she has an attraction to him, even though he's being a little bit beastly to her. So that's not easy to pull off all of those things at the same time. And
somewhere I read
such an amazing
nearly
job.
30 to 40 same kind of roles that A&R got, same Duncan roles. That is the impact that he made on Telugu film.
Yeah, and he had such an amazing impact. Reading up on him, how he insisted later in his life to only do films that were made, in Andhra Pradesh, like not only do in Chennai. And so he really had such a huge impact on the entire Telugu film industry. Just one person made such a huge impact. So again, I'm putting out my plea and my prayer that somebody will make subtitles for this film in honor of its 70th anniversary. You have a whole year to make it happen.
It is unfortunate that we didn't have any subtitles, but the music and the lyrics, they are timeless classics till now.
Yeah, I'm sure this music, that has carried on for a long time, because I could just tell, like I said, even not knowing the words, the music itself is so beautiful. And the singing of it, so beautiful. I think it was Gantala was singing quite a few of the songs, and just gorgeous. Anyway, thank you. Next time we will pick something with subtitles. So
yeah,
I think this is our earliest film, because before I think we had done Maya Bazaar, I think was the earliest, from 1957. So this is the absolute earliest one. 1953, but
that is the early days of even A&R too.
Yeah, so I'm a true fan of Savitri and A&R, and I want to see more of their films. So we're going to explore more of their films with subtitles going forward in this series.
Sure. Thank you so much, Melanie. సో ఏఎన్ఆర్ హీరోగా తన తొలినాళ్ళలోనే ఒక భగ్న ప్రేమికుడిగా ఆల్ ఓవర్ ఇండియా హిట్ అయినటువంటి ఒక నవల్ని, దేవదాస్ నవల్ని తీసుకుని దాన్ని తెలుగులో దేవదాస్ గా, అట్ ది సేమ్ టైం సైమల్టేనియస్ గా తమిళ్లో కూడా ఆయన హీరోగా నటిస్తూ చేయడం, అది ఇక్కడ కూడా ఇంతటి అద్భుతమైన విజయాన్ని సాధించడం, ఇన్ని సంవత్సరాల తర్వాత కూడా మనం దాని గురించి మాట్లాడుకోవడం, అంటే ఒక ఎమోషన్ ని కనుక కరెక్ట్ గా క్యారీ అవుట్ చేయగలిగితే దానికి భాషా భేదాలు ఉండవు. ఆ ఎమోషన్ ఎక్కడైనా ఏ లాంగ్వేజ్ లో అయినా సూపర్ హిట్ అవుతుంది. దాన్ని స్క్రీన్ మీద కరెక్ట్ గా ప్రెజెంట్ చేయగలిగితే చాలు అని నిరూపించిన సినిమాగా కూడా దేవదాస్ ఇప్పటికి ప్రజల గుండెల్లో చిరస్థాయిగా నిలిచిపోయింది. ఇది ఈ వారం మెల్నీతో ఇంటర్వ్యూ. వచ్చే వారం మరో మంచి ఇంటర్వ్యూతో అప్పుడు మీతో ముందుకు వస్తాం. అప్పటి వరకు అంటిల్ దెన్ బాయ్.